That was a good salad. Who's going to do the dishes?
Hi, welcome to Dishes Out. We're here to respond to ridiculous comments, the naysayers, and the negative stereotypes.
Yes, we're not going to let harmful and hateful comments have the last word. We're dishing it out, spilling the tea, and breaking down the words that divide, harm, and hurt.
So join us every Friday for a new episode.
Dishes out. All right. Welcome back, everyone. Another week. Another weekend.
Another week. Oh, well, Friday's a weekend. True.
Yeah, kind of. If you're one of those people that no, Friday's the last day of the week. The weekend is Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
I've had arguments with my husband about that. I don't know about you.
I personally think weekend starts on Friday.
I think so too.
For me, so Friday is the start, the beginning of the weekend.
It is. It is.
Yes, absolutely.
Everyone loves Friday. And it's another Friday, another dish is out. We have some clapping back to do, Hoshin, don't we?
I know. We posted a little reel on our social media. We talking about that people who, unless you're indigenous to the land, otherwise your great parents, some generation ago, they have to be an immigrant to this land, right? Unless you are indigenous. So if you hate immigrants, you also hate your ancestors.
Right.
I think it makes sense. Yeah. And we have a lot of people in our comment said settlers ain't immigrants.
Settlers ain't immigrants.
How do we feel about that?
I think settlers is a glorified term for colonizers.
Yes.
I also think settler has no difference than immigrant because in a general sense, because honestly, you came and you lived here. It's the same.
True.
It's the same. This isn't to say all immigrants who came here were colonizers. Like, obviously, great grandparents in China did not come here to colonize. They just came to work. They weren't here to subdue land or to conquer or to discover anything. So there is a distinction there. I will give that. But settler versus immigrant, I don't know. I feel like they're the same. They're the same. What do you think?
I think, of course, now we just dishes out. We don't usually provide any data or any necessarily. You just talk about common sense. For me, common sense immigrants are someone whom. It's common sense to talk about common sense.
We do. And where is the common sense on their socials? It's just, there is none. Everyone's
people
mad
know
and
common
dumb.
Sense. I think generally the general public will agree with the statement that immigrants are just people move from one country to another and then to live in a brand new country or region or pre-existing society. And settler, many, at least according to also our comments, some people say settlers are people who come to a arid land and develop or colonize civilization. I think this statement is very dangerous because develop civilization, does that mean they think those lands are no civilization?
Yeah, exactly. That's what it means. Yeah.
That would mean they see indigenous there and there's no people, no civilization there, even though there's indigenous people living.
Right.
They think they glorify colonization as settlement. Let's just say that. That's how I see it. So I think so the definition of settler for me at least is people who come from a brand some other place to a new area. Often that is, let's say, that's not theirs. That belongs to many other people. And then they just claim it to theirs and make it their own. I think that might be the only difference. If I see it, is they settler come to a place and claim it their own, regardless of what other people already live there, regardless of what kind of pre-existing civilization already is there. Versus immigrant are people who come to a pre-existing society and just want to be part of it rather than to claim it themselves. I see that's the only difference to me, to be honest.
Yeah.
But in a general sense, they are both people who move from a new place to another
Yeah.
and make a living out of it.
Right.
But yeah, so I think in general sense, all settlers are immigrants, but not all immigrants are settlers.
Ooh. See, I think that's it. I think that's it. Because like to your point, people are coming the same exact pathway, right? We're moving from one country to another.
To
And we
another.
talk about this about expat versus immigrant as well. Migrant versus immigrant, right?
Mhm.
It's not so much about the intention, but it is when you break it down, yes, both settlers and immigrants are the same in the sense of they left their home country and came to a new one.
Yeah.
Then what they did when they got there determines the difference is what I'm
Yes,
hearing
I
you
agree.
say. So
Yeah.
to say that what was it? Not all settlers are immigrants, but settlers.
So
yeah. What was
settlers
what you
aren't
said?
immigrants. The comment said settlers aren't immigrant. I say all settlers are immigrant, but not all
They are.
immigrants are settlers. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. If we think about the context of the word settler being about claiming something for your own, quote unquote, building a civilization, dominating another people group, that's not what immigrants are coming for. And I'm sure that's not a lot of people when they came to Canada weren't hell bent on, I'm just going to dominate everyone when I get there. You hear about people who come to Canada for an opportunity with $7 in their pocket and just trying to make it work. Would I say that they are a settler who is trying to dominate the land? No.
I think, that's a great point. Like, for example, remember we talk about a lot of like early immigration history, for example, Chinese. Like the first wave of Chinese came here because of the San Francisco gold rush, right? They didn't find any gold, so they moved here. I don't think they were there to try to conquer and claim land. That's not that they were not even allowed to claim land. Remember, because of the Chinese Exclusion Act, they were not allowed to own any land except indigenous land because and was served. They had special governed by different laws. So like to use an example, this Chinese come from San Francisco. They come to this land. They're literally just trying to make a living. At that point, they want to find gold, but they're not with the intention of colonization. Whereas people from the UK probably moved here, take, indigenous land and then put them in a reserve and then claim it on their own, make governments, make new rules, make whatever, or determine who can own land, who cannot own land. I think that is settler. So both the Chinese and English came to Canada as immigrants, but the Chinese stays in immigrant status, but the British become settler.
That's it.
See, that's how I see the difference.
Yeah, there is a difference. So maybe some of these people are right that no, they're wrong saying that settlers aren't immigrants. They are immigrants. To your point,
all settlers
they both
are
immigrated.
Yeah.
And I think in the context of all of the haters here on our internets was very much the fact that how dare you call my ancestors an immigrant because they have such already a dehumanized, dirty way of looking at immigrants. And so to equate my own family members with an immigrant, how dare you? No, they were settlers. They were this romantic idea of what the perfect model person should be when honestly, people were against Irish immigrants coming in. Like with their with all of these holidays and they eat so much potato. I don't know what it was. Like there was always things that people hated immigrants coming here for. And yet here we are. People love the Irish now for the most part.
I know.
We've got, and just even Chinese immigrants, people didn't like Chinese immigrants there either. We had a whole government hell-bent against them. And now across Canada, we have Chinatowns and we have a beautiful diaspora of Chinese Canadian people with traditions. We have dragon dances that people love attending. But people hated that before. People hated.
I know.
So I just feel like it's just.
I know. That's
Anyway,
another thing. I don't understand. Like, for example, the early immigrants, let's say the first Chinese immigrant to Canada, we still say that they're immigrant. I don't think anyone will use the word, they are the first Chinese settlers.
Settlers, yes.
They will not call this Chinese a settler. They will call them immigrants.
It's a
but then yet,
term.
at a similar time, if someone from European come to here, they will call them settlers. I think it's definitely some sort of race problem. Definitely some sort of racial problem there. If you call a similar time frame during that time frame that European come here settlers, and these Chinese, Vietnamese, Japanese, whoever they are from, these Asian Black people come to this land should also be called settler. Why? Just because the color of the skin is different than someone. One is settler, one is immigrant. And to be honest, the non-white people, as we all know, anyone who read history, the non-white people suffer way more.
Oh, yes.
Actually did way more, they paid way less to build, build this country. There's a lot of people in our comments who say, oh, my white ancestor coming to build civilization, the so-called Canada. I was like, they didn't build most of the stuff.
Yeah.
Mostly a slave labor.
Yeah, exactly.
They
Your
shipped
parliament
people-
buildings, your railroads.
Yeah.
You can thank enslaved people who were forced to come here. Who didn't even
Yes.
choose to settle here. Like they were forced to be here.
Exactly. They ship people, give them a lie, give them false promises, and ship them here, force them to work, pay them like a quarter less than
Wasn't
a
it
white
half?
person.
It was like half.
No,
So wasn't it
no.
like $1 to every $2?
I remember, I don't know about every project, but the Trans-Canada Pacific Railway,
Yeah.
the Trans Railway,
Yeah.
I forgot the specific
Transnational
specific-
highway or yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Anyway,
yes, yes.
yeah. I remember the white people gets $1 a day, and Asian, like the Chinese, gets 25 cents, so a quarter.
Gross. Yeah.
Yeah, a quarter. So no, mostly is actually people call them built in species, specifically mostly Asian built your railway, built your castle, built your buildings.
Right.
No,
right,
not really white
exactly.
people.
Exactly.
Your ancestor just maybe worked somewhere. And yes, maybe some of them work on the railway too, but they got $1 while the Chinese got 25 cents.
Yeah.
So you're talking about building the country. I think I would mostly go to the Chinese.
Yeah. This isn't to say that people were building, but to your point, like they were getting paid more. They were being treated better. They weren't given the most dangerous jobs. They weren't lied to.
From Europe.
They were given a power of dominance and privilege and right that Chinese people did not have. And so I think the conclusion of our clap back as settler is a very elevated privilege term for European or Eurocentric immigrants.
Exactly.
But the immigrants, they immigrated here.
They are immigrants.
They came here.
Exactly.
And that, unfortunately, a lot of people just can't sit with that. And you know what? That's on them. TikTok, I had so many likes on there. There was another Bobo on Instagram who was just, what you're saying isn't true because look at how everyone is like commenting against you. And I responded, as though public opinion that's shaped by misinformation and dehumanization of people becomes the narrative that I want to espouse to. No, that's not what we're doing here. I stand by this truth. And just because y'all hate us does not mean that we're going away or that we're saying anything or believing anything different. So anyway, that's our dishes out. So settlers are immigrants, but not all immigrants were settlers.
Exactly. Love
Boom.
That.
Lovely.
Anyway.
Let's crochet that on a pillow.
You're welcome, people.
You're welcome. Yes, exactly. Thanks for joining us. Please, every Friday we do drop a new Dishes Out where we respond to comments. You can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky. We do full-length episodes that drop every Tuesday, and you can find us on our website, canadiansalad.ca. Let us know what you think. Subscribe, share, and let us know, your thoughts about immigrants and settlers. Love to hear them. So thanks for joining us.
Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Canadian Salad is written and produced in British Columbia, Canada by Hoshin Ho and Andrea McCoy. Theme music is by Naver Avetyan from Pixabay.
I like oranges with my salad.